The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. It's Tuesday. We had an extended week off last week because of Thanksgiving here in the United States. I hope all of you had a wonderful weekend wherever you were and that you found some time to give thanks for the things that are wonderful in your life. We've got a lot that's going to be going on here because we're going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective. We are in the middle of our Festival of Toys, and so I want to let you know that the toy of the hour, in fact, it's the toy of the day, we're featuring tech toys in particular and apps this week, and so we are going to be featuring Camp Discovery, and we have one of the game developers who's going to be with us in just a little while to give you an update on what's happening with Camp Discovery and why this particular app is so ingenious and how it helps our young kids on the autism spectrum access language and other skills that are so important to them. So we're going to be talking about that more throughout this hour, but I just wanted to let you know at the top of the hour, it's our toy of the hour. It's our toy of the day, really. We're also going to be talking in just a few minutes about Giving Tuesday, because I have some ideas about where you might want to give for Giving Tuesday. I know this shocks and surprises you. But in any case, we want to welcome you to the show. If it's your first time here, we're so glad that you're here. Welcome home. This is a place where we want to provide free resources and answers to questions for individuals who are either parents, teachers, practitioners working with an individual on the spectrum, or if you yourself are on the spectrum. And you know, honestly, I feel bad just even narrowing it that much because I've been hearing from a lot of grandparents and aunts and uncles, cousins and nieces and nephews who have questions. So we welcome anyone who has a vested interest in the autism community. And as I said, welcome home. We are going to be talking about all things autism for the next 2 hours, but we want you to interact with us. We want you to participate with us. So Kelby is going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate, some of the ways you can watch the show, and some of the ways that you can be writing into us. While he does that, I will remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, there's so much to do, including check out, I previewed the blog early this week. We're going to be tasting the recipe tomorrow on the show, but there is a very tasty blog recipe there for a very festive pasta. I'm telling you, your kitchen will smell amazing if you make this in your kitchen. So in any case, lots of other things to do there, but we do hope that one of the things that you will do is watch the show. You can do that by clicking on it's triangle that's on the computer screen. And you can watch the most recently recorded show. You can be watching a live show. You can cycle back on the playlist through all the shows that we've done and look and see what there is to see. All of that's free. And then to the side, excuse me, is the live feature. Put your cursor in the box that says your question, start typing, and hit enter. And that's it. You don't have to do anything else. There's no login, there's no password, there's nothing to remember. There's nobody asking for your name, your address, your credit card information. That just doesn't happen, which I love. And then so type in what you want, hit enter, and it will show up here on my screen. We try to get to all the questions within a certain amount of time. You know, sometimes I'll look at it and go, ooh, this is a question for Dr. Grandpichet, and I know she's here on Wednesday, or ooh, that's a question for Dr. Tarbox, and he's here on Thursday. And sometimes I go, ooh, you know what, that's a question for me. I'm going to take that right now. So keep that in mind. If for some reason I've missed a question, write it in again. You know, poke me. I don't understand poking on Facebook, but here, poke me. In any case, if you want us to get back to you, you can give us information about how to get back to you. Otherwise, we don't know who you are or where you are. And I always say include as much information as you want to, but it's really helpful, especially when you're looking for services, to tell us what is the closest major city so that we get an idea of where you are. And often that involves including a state or a country for me, because I am geographically challenged. So I need to be better about that. I'm trying to be. We have a lovely map where we put pins on places where people tell us that they've written in or watched from, and so I'm learning in that way. But world geography is coming up for my son, so I need to brush up on that. Help me out. Okay, also want to remind you, when you go to Autism-Live, there is a place up in the corner on the whiteboard up there where it says join our email list. Well, let me just tell you, that's always a good thing to do. Nothing bad happens when you join the email list. We do not sell your list to anybody else. We don't give our list to anybody else. We will give you our free newsletter, and you will get a message telling you who's going to be on the show for a week, with a very easy way to decide that you don't want to get it. Unsubscribe, that's the word that I want. I'm so articulate this morning. But what happens when you are on the email list is that you are this first step eligible to win one of our toys in the Festival of Toys. Now, I just want to talk to you about, we've already given away a bunch of toys, and I haven't read off the names here yet on the show. I'm going to try to remember to do that tomorrow. But a bunch of you have won plasma cars and other toys, and we'll be letting you know. We'll be in touch with you to let you know what you've won. But I really want more people entering, okay? So if you know families that are in need, I really want for you to sign up first on the free email list, and then if you see a toy, like today, we're going to be giving away a total of 5 Camp Discovery, the keys to it, so that you can input that into the App Store, and you can get a free version of Camp Discovery. This is a wonderful thing. I know firsthand as a parent that when it gets to be the holiday season, it's not as if you want to give your child less when they're on the autism spectrum, right? In fact, quite the contrary, you want to give them more. So we want to help to connect you with toys that are awesome and give you ideas for toys that are just a cut above, that are going to be reinforcing to your child, but are going to help them to learn and help them to grow skills in so many different areas. So we're going to be talking about all those toys this month. But we also like to give some of those toys away, and I want to give them away to families who really want to use them. So participate, participate, participate. All right. I always like to remind you at the start of the show that we have lots of experts that are on the show. I love who we've got on the show today. This is just going to be a really fun show. But I do like to remind you that I am not one of the experts. I have a very limited knowledge of autism as an autism parent. My son, who was diagnosed at the age of 2.5, is now about to be, in just a couple of days, he's going to be 11.5. I don't know where the time goes. So that's where my experience is. And I'm a former teacher. I don't want to leave that out, because I think that that's a really important thing to mention. And I have a great interest, in knowing how to help our kids that are on the spectrum, because I've got one at home, and because he has friends, and because I care so much about these kids, and my experience with them and my desire to be of use to them grows every single day. But I also know what it's like to be a parent and not have those resources. So I want to connect you with those things. That's my job. I want to connect you to the things that you need, which are going to be different than the things that I needed, right? This is not a one-size-fits-all community, but there are resources. And I hope that you're not sitting there feeling like you're alone and that there's nothing that you can be done, because nothing could be further from the truth. First of all, you are not alone. Unfortunately, the numbers of us who are with you grow every single day. All you have to do is reach out your hand, and we will take your hand and hold on to your hand, and we get through this all together and get to the good stuff, right? The other thing is that the resources are growing. Nope, there aren't enough. We're never going to lie to you about that. There are not enough resources. There are not enough things for our individuals on the autism spectrum, but that doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of things that we can do and things that you can do. And we're really going to be focusing on those things. All right, so be a part, participate with us. Now, we like to start every morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out, what are these people talking about, and what has this got to do with my life today? And more importantly, how is this a tool that I can use? How can this benefit me to get to that good stuff? So when we last left you a week ago, our last show, we had the term deprivation, which was a perfect term to have 2 days before everybody in the United States stuffed themselves with turkey, right? Well, today we have the other side of that coin, satiation. So that's right. Our jargon for today is satiation. All right, what are we talking about? Let's take a look at our actual definition. Satiation, when a reinforcer loses its effectiveness due to overuse. And already that's a slimmed down definition, but let's take a look at what our working definition is. Too much of a good thing. All right, let's think back to a week ago on Tuesday when everybody was going, ooh, I want some pumpkin pie and I want some turkey. I can't wait to have some of that. And little kids were jumping up and down going, ooh, I want some pumpkin pie. And let's think about today, the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. If somebody offered you turkey today, I don't know about you, but I would be saying no. And the same thing about pumpkin pie. Why would I want pumpkin pie today? Because I had a bunch, I didn't actually have pumpkin pie, but I had pumpkin other stuff over the weekend. And I really don't want to see a pumpkin for at least a week. At least a week. I'm not saying that I'm never going to love pumpkin again, but I have reached a stage of satiation. It's no longer reinforcing to me to say, ooh, let's have a pumpkin muffin, blech, right? And this happens with everything in life. Too much of a good thing makes it not as reinforcing. So I always like to use the example of chocolate cake that, most people, I'm allergic to chocolate, but most people love chocolate cake. But if you've eaten an entire chocolate cake, you get to a point, and everybody's point of satiation is different, right? But you get to a point where it's, I cannot have any more chocolate cake for a while, right? Think about that think about what's the most reinforcing thing that the individual that has autism that you're working with, maybe it's that they love to play video games. I mean, that's my son. He loves to play video games. And his point of satiation for video games is a lot higher than where I want it to be. But there still is a point at which he goes, I'm done. Can we go do something else? I want to go someplace. I want to play with some kids. I want to see a movie, right? Now, if I wanted to use video games as a reward for him, then I have to make sure that he is not even close to satiation in order for that reinforcer to work. Does that make sense? If my son can have video games all the time and he plays them all the time, then he's more likely to be at that point of, I don't really need to work for this. But if I say to him, you're getting a half an hour of video games a day, I know, like as if that would ever work. But let's say that I had the backbone to do that, half an hour of video games a day, then video games would become a thing that he would prize. And giving him an hour of video games, my son would be willing to jump through hoops. It's a very powerful thing as a parent when we start to, and as a teacher, when we start to look at satiation and go, okay, how am I using this to my benefit and how am I allowing this to kick my keister? Because if I know something is powerful, I have to be working this deprivation satiation thing so that this reinforcer gets the job done. It's a smart, really easy, completely no cost, effective tool to be mindful of when you're figuring out how we want to take a reinforcer, how we want to use it, and how often we want to use it. Satiation, make sure that you don't get to that point with your reinforcers or they won't be as effective. Okay, moving on. We always have a question of the day for you. And our question for you today, which I can't wait to look and see what you guys have said, how has technology helped you with autism spectrum disorders? What have you discovered that you can use technology to do? I will honestly say that the iPad and phones have changed the way we look at autism in our family from so many different ways, like the way in which I'm able to research things in different, because I had a laptop, but even my laptop, it didn't charge anymore. you know and so the ability to take something very mobily and look things up has changed the way I work and the way that I research things for autism for my child. But beyond that, using things like skills has changed the way I go to IEPs. It changes the conversation that I'm having with the professionals that are working with my child that aren't ABA trained, you know what I mean? There have been so many things that have changed for us. And I look at how my son, technology is a big reinforcer for him. So that's changed the way that he does. For a while, we don't use a token economy system in the way that we used to, but for a while it was on a phone. And we used to have the old sticker chart with the Velcro and did that. And that was always in my purse. But then we did it so that he would set it up on an app on the phone and he would run his own token economy. You gotta love that, right? We've recently had a difficulty with my son at school because when it's at the end of the day, he has to write down his homework into his binder reminder, and he wasn't writing it. His handwriting, we're still working on that because he can handwrite really nicely. It's just the fluency of it when it's got to be quick, right? And there wasn't enough time at the other sixth graders all can write fast enough that the time that was allotted at the end of the day to write down the homework wasn't enough for my son. And we tried all these different things, and eventually we went, this is silly. Have him take a picture of it on his phone, and then he gets to write it at home, which is the first thing that he does for his homework, is copy what's on the board leisurely so that he's doing it really beautifully. Which helps him to work on that and then follow the steps of it. Because there was a breakdown. I couldn't read what he wrote. He couldn't read what he wrote. We're working on that. But in the meantime, I wanted him to make sure he was getting the homework done. So that's some of the different ways that technology have helped us. But I'd love to hear from you. How are you using technology to help your kiddos on the autism spectrum or to help yourselves on the autism spectrum? All right, we always have a topic of the week, and I've already given it away by now that our topic this week is technology and autism, and we're focusing specifically on some toys, some apps, if you will, because I think a lot of us are pretty clear on the fact that technology, whether it's in a phone, a tablet, or an iPad, is very useful to our kids. But then how do we harness that? Which apps do we use to get to the furthest point? So we are going to be talking about technology and autism all week long, and as I mentioned, we are going to be talking about a really fabulous app that we've had on the show before, but we're going to talk about some new things that are going on with Camp Discovery. This is an amazing tool to help our young kiddos learn and to maximize the time that we have spent and invested in therapy so that we're getting more of that practice. Dr. Jonathan Tarbox talks with us every Thursday and talks about giving a child opportunity and immediate feedback are two of the most crucial things that we can do to increase skills. And that's exactly what Camp Discovery does. So we're going to be talking about that. And in fact, Christopher Miyake is going to be with us coming up next. We've got a little bit of autism news for you. And then in the next hour, we've got a dad who, Chris Raley, who I think it's pronounced Raley, has done something really remarkable. His company is CR9 Jewelry Design. You should Google them before we have him on the show. He's doing some amazing things with some jewelry that I want him to talk about and why he's doing it. It's autism jewelry, and if you're looking for that special gift for a teacher or a loved one, I guarantee you Chris has got something that you're going to like, and his story really touched me, and so I wanted him to be on the show to talk with you as well. And then because you brought this up last Tuesday, somebody brought up compliance. And I gave you the Reader's Digest version of compliance. Today, we're going to take a couple of minutes and we're going to go through the Happy Compliant Child 101 class. I guarantee you it's a game changer. So all of that plus your questions coming up after these messages. Stick with us.
When When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's gonna play football, he's gonna do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, you know, where is he, what is he doing, is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. ACT Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT,
What
yes.
did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called, and they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle. Without that, we wouldn't be able to receive the service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta, and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Okay. Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear ACT Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. We underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have with us now Christopher Miyake. Welcome back.
Thank you.
We have to say congratulations because since the last time you were here, you got married.
I did, thank you.
Which that's a very wonderful thing. Congratulations on that. And for those of you who haven't seen Christopher before on the show, Christopher, I've known Christopher for a while because for a brief moment in time, he was a therapist on my son's team. and he was spectacular. You just are a wonderful, wonderful person, and that carries in all the things that you do, and you really care about our kiddos. But now you've transitioned in your life to a way to help more than just one kid at a time. And you are working in the game development department and really heavily invested in something called Camp Discovery. So tell us a little bit about what exactly, for somebody who's never known anything about Camp Discovery before, what does it do?
Camp Discovery, well, I was brought, like you said, I was a therapist. So I was brought in to help the development team, our artists and our programmers, kind of capture what goes on in the therapy session into this app. And so this app encompasses a lot of lessons for our kids, a lot of different styles of play. So there's receptive identification, so basically just saying, touch, book, or touch caterpillar or something, and the kid has to touch it and ID it, which is an important skill. There's matching, there's sorting, and they're all in here. And so what we've done is taken our set of curriculum and found the lessons that would, kind of fit into an iPad. Not all lessons that you teach are going to work in this format. So we've taken the ones that we found were most important and easily translated and put them in here.
And for me, what's fun about it is that you've created a world that a kid can go into. It's called Camp Discovery, and the graphics are beautiful, and they get better and better over time. I'm kind of amazed by the things that you guys do, but it literally now is this beautiful world that a kid can go into, and there are paths that they can go down, and when they go down those paths, they get an opportunity to learn something along the way. So what I love about this as a parent is that my kid is going to be happy, first and foremost. And secondly, we know that technology is so reinforcing to a kid, so I can hand him this iPad and I know that he'll be happy. But the fact that he's learning the same things that he would have been learning in a therapy session in the same way that he would have been learning them, that's extraordinary.
Yeah, I think what you said right now, in the same way that they learn, is very key. A lot of apps you play now, they're very fun. I think the issue we've found with a lot of them is that they lead to frustration in a lot of kids because there's no help. There's no error correction. So, if the objective says to touch the red balloon and they touch the blue one, it doesn't do anything. And it might give a sound or something like, oh, sorry, but they are allowed to get the answer incorrect over and over and over and over. So there's no real teaching process. It's kind of just process of elimination, which is difficult for a lot of our kids. And so what we've done is taken the prompting and the error correction and made it so when a kid starts, it's very simple, it's very easy, and it builds upon that. And if they do have a mistake along the way, it'll bring them back. And so we're trying to always ensure success as they move forward through the curriculum.
Yeah, as a former teacher, I was in a conversation with somebody yesterday about what is actual teaching. And because it seems like the world has gone in this mode of worksheets, where, we'll give a kid a worksheet and we'll call that teaching. And I got really hepped up yesterday saying, a worksheet is not teaching. If I wanted to teach you physics, I wouldn't put a worksheet in front of you and walk away and think, oh, I'm sure that Christopher got it. From the worksheet, I would never do that. But teaching, I think the idea of teaching has become much more slippery to people. Like they just literally don't know what to do. But this app actually teaches the child, and it rewards them when they get it right. And it rewards them with things that they have chosen, so it's meaningful to them, correct?
Yeah, and so that's another key component of the app is when I was brought in, I think one of the things I loved about therapy was finding what motivates a kid. So, it doesn't matter what you're working for or what you're working on. If the kid doesn't want to learn it or has no reason to get past or through that, that boring part, they're not going to learn. They're not going to be motivated to push through any times if they get something incorrect. So we start each, play session with a preference assessment. So there's 6 different buttons, and you can hit whatever one the child picks the most. We record that, and then it gets played more often during their as a reward for when they get correct answers.
It's really pretty remarkable, and I want to take a short break and show you guys a little bit of Camp Discovery during the break. And then when we come back, I want to talk about what the lessons are specifically, because you're constantly adding more lessons, and you've done something really revolutionary with the game in a way for people to be able to build on the game that I want you to talk about. So, but first, take a look. This is Camp Discovery.
Hi, welcome to Camp Discovery, a free-to-play suite of fun, interactive learning games for kids 2 and up, designed by experts in autism. Camp Discovery will open your early learner to a world of new skills, shapes, numbers, colors, locations, emotions, and more. Let's get started.
Please choose a level.
Objects. First, Camp Discovery's Intelligent Preference Assessment determines your child's preferred reward for choosing correctly. Okay, got it. Let's play. Camp Discovery creates a motivating learning environment for your child by minimizing incorrect responses and maximizing successful ones.
Find the shoes.
Respond correctly and your child is rewarded with their favorite animations.
You did it.
Respond incorrectly and our unique prompting system guides your child to the correct answer by making it the largest choice.
That's not it. Try again. Way to go.
Continue to answer correctly and the size gradually reduces until the child makes the correct choice independently.
You win.
Success! Rewards motivate learning. Complete a round and your child is rewarded with a fun mini-game. Track your child's progress with easy-to-read graphs. Multiple settings options allow you to customize Camp Discovery to your child's unique needs. All this in one single app, the Camp Discovery app, available for free on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon Store.
Welcome back to Autism Live. So you just saw some of Camp Discovery, and you see that the graphics are just beautiful. I'm watching, it's playing in front of you, and there's always something that's moving. You've got clouds going across. Absolutely love this. So let's talk about some of the individual lessons that are in there and some of the lessons that you've added in recent, because you're constantly adding different lessons. What kinds of things are we working on?
So the first area is just Camp Discovery, and this first section has lessons like objects, locations, actions, shapes, body parts, emotions. This is the first area released, and so we wanted to get some of the very basic areas of the curriculum. And we have colors, numbers, and letters, and then all these, if you open them up, like I said before, have matching identicals, similars, sorting, and receptive identification. And so our goal when we put this out is not to just release an app and then just have it sit there. It's to always be producing more content. So we have 5 total areas. I think we are filling up our 3rd one right now. And there's 10 lessons in each, so we have about 30 lessons. And each one has different not focus, but just different curriculum that has been put out. So like in this snowy area, the latest one, we have sight words, attributes, money, categories, sound discrimination. Some of these are a little bit more difficult than the first area that we released.
Which is great because kids grow and they need more difficult things. So, and you have been using this in schools and in preschools. What kinds of things are you hearing from the people who are using it with kids?
I think coming from therapy, I think when I was asked to move over to this position, I think one of my only hesitations was that I would lose that connection. It's I guess the selfish part of therapy is that feeling you get back when you get to help that kid, ride a bike or tie their shoe or say hi to a friend. And when you move into something like this, it's different. I love it, but you lose.
But you're removed from it.
Yeah,
you're
that
removed
feedback.
You don't get to see that moment of spark when it all changes when you open the door.
Yes, and I think that was hard to give up. But I want to say 2 or 3 months ago, after we released the pro version, which is perfect for schools because of the educational discount, whatever, we've gotten some feedback from teachers, and it's not the same, but it gives you a little something. We had a teacher out in Texas, get in touch with us and say that one of his students, it's the one thing that they can do independently for lengths of time. And to hear that is just a great feeling. I mean, for our whole development team, for the whole mission that we're trying to accomplish with this app and what we're trying to give to parents and teachers. It's great, and we've heard that another student will sit with this and play for 30-40 minutes on end, and then surprisingly, I didn't think we would be able to do this, but the child was doing the receptive lessons and saying the target vocabulary, so kind of changing from that receptive ID to an expressive one. And to hear that again it gets you excited, and it kind of makes you want to push harder into what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we've gotten excellent feedback in terms of what people want to see, and hopefully we can make those changes for all of them.
Absolutely. Because it's important for people to know that you've been asking what works about this for you, what doesn't work about this for you. I know we had somebody, when you were on the last time, wrote in and said, we love it, we just wish this. And then it was something that we brought to you and somebody else had said that, and you guys, I don't know if you've already made that change or you were in the process of making that change. I love that it's a dialogue, that this is really being driven by people who are using it, who are saying, this is what I'm finding using it. And I think all of you need to know that you can be a part of something bigger as you're using this. It's so fascinating because we've been saying for a long time, how can we maximize that time that our child is in therapy? And I recall, I was lucky that my child for a period of time got a 40-hour in-home program. And I would try to use my time that when he was occupied in therapy and they weren't requiring me, that I would get things done, but our house wasn't set up so that I could do laundry while he was doing therapy, or I could do dishes, which would mean therapy would end and I needed to start dinner, start laundry, and do dishes at the same time and take care of whatever. And I always felt guilty that I couldn't continue in that moment. Now, I found other moments too, but I couldn't continue what was happening. We all have moments where we need where driving to speech or driving to OT, where it's downtime for our kids, and we're all trying to find ways to maximize that downtime to stretch out the learning. This is the perfect tool because it does it in a responsible way that's really exciting to the kids, and it gives us a free moment. That's a huge gift, Christopher.
Yeah, I know, and I think that's, as you know, our schools are not getting the budget that they need, and so they're understaffed. And that's a reason why we've been getting a lot of feedback from teachers, is because they may have 5 or 6 kids in their classroom that they need to work with at once, and with the needs of children with disabilities, they can't all learn at the same pace. They need different motivation. They need different prompts and all these things. And so having this as a tool to have a child use, and then you can come over and check, has been great. And going along with that feedback, the teacher that talked to us in Texas was saying that he was graphing on an Excel sheet like every day the progress. And so he got back to us and told us, it'd be great if you guys could do something more. And so hopefully, and I want to say 3 or 4 months, we're going to have a teacher portal, and so they can log in and check the progress of the child and have those reports ready for I think you were talking about earlier, like IEPs, like going into an IEP and having stuff ready, and so there's less work. We want to make it easier for teachers and parents so they can focus on other stuff. So it's not, I don't have to focus on writing a report for an IEP. I can spend 10 minutes on that and 20 minutes with the kid instead of 30 minutes writing the IEP.
It's very smart. But now you can use Camp Discovery in conjunction with Skills if you're a Skills user, correct?
Yes, and that's actually part of the upcoming, web portal, is to have a greater integration. Right now you can take a Skills token and input it in the game, and it tracks your progress, and you can regain that progress, but we want to give our users a little more control over what they see and how they see the progress, so it's not just one chart. It's going to show daily progress, it's going to show progress over time, and then a little more what you get, I think, when you log into a Skills and you see the back end there. Okay. And now you can chart and see how different things are moving.
Okay, very exciting stuff. So now you mentioned the Pro version. Talk about what that is, and because it used to be that if you bought Camp Discovery, you got Camp Discovery for free, and then you could buy different lessons for a very small amount, correct?
Yeah, so we started out with the free version, and then when we didn't have a lot of content, we were just selling each lesson, I software is like $99 or $299 or something like that. But with a school district reached out to us and said, we can't get the free version and do in-app purchases for our school, and we'd love to have it for one of our classrooms. Are you guys thinking about doing just a for sale version? So we did a pro version, and what that is I think it's, I want to say like half the cost if you buy the lessons, individually, and you get all the lessons. You get all the content now, and you get all the future content. And then the big part was actually because you can have that version, you can get into the Apple Store for educational discounts, and so that allows schools to buy it on volume purchasing accounts, and I think it cuts the price by maybe almost half.
Wow.
So
pretty exciting. So a great buy for schools, but a parent could make a decision and do it either way, or can they only do the pro version now?
No, they can do both. Yeah, so they can do the free and they can do the pro. Both have all the same features. The only difference is that the pro comes with all the lessons. You still have to download them, but you don't have to buy them individually.
Okay. So you could decide to just get it for free today and to play with it a little bit and see what it does and see how your child likes it. But I think very quickly what you'll see is that once you bought one lesson and you see that they fly through that and how great that is, you're going to end up wanting to get the pro version. But you can start with the free version and then upgrade to the pro, or do they have to start over if they do the pro?
They have to start. I mean, you can take your child's progress. So using the gamer token in the game, you can take that and use it in the pro version.
Okay.
But yes, if you start buying on the free version, we can't transfer, I guess, like the account or money towards a pro version. So.
Okay, something to consider. But for today, because this is our toy of the hour, and for this hour and for the next hour, we have a total of 5 codes that we can give out to somebody that's for the pro version. So there 5 of our viewers are going to win this for free. And what an exciting thing, and thank you for giving that to us. And I want to remind all of you, this is part of our Festival of the Toys. So what you need to do first of all is to sign up for our free, our email list so that you'll get the free newsletter. You need to do that by going to autism-live.com, go up onto the whiteboard. It's up there, it says join our email list. Make sure that you're on that list. You must be on that list in order to be eligible. Then you want to email me at s.penrod@autism-live.com. Tell me that you want to get the Camp Discovery, who you want to get it for, and why you want to get it for them. Make sure that you give me your name and address. We only need name and address for this one. Last week for the plasma cards, we needed phone number too because they had to be delivered, and sometimes people have to call you when they deliver things. We do this. I'm going to email you the code, and you're going to have it well before Christmas. So want to know who would like to have the pro version. I've got a total of 5 across this hour and next hour. Of course, you don't have to do it within these 2 hours. You have until tomorrow morning to email me. So make sure that if you want that for a child, this is amazing. But let's talk a little bit about this is for kids who are at a certain, like my son who's 11, this is not the lesson for him. So there are kids, there's a certain skill level that Camp Discovery is right for. Talk to us about what age range, what skill range we're talking about.
A lot of the programs, and as I mentioned before, like colors and emotions, these are very basic. So if you have a child that is just beginning in some kind of program, or needs help with basic skills like matching and sorting, this is perfect.
Okay.
Like you said, if an older kid that
Depending
knows
on
a lot
the
of these
skill
things,
level.
yes.
Yeah, because you could have an 11-year-old, but if they've never been taught these things before, this is still appropriate. Mm-hmm. It's more of a skill level than an age level kind of thing. But beginning language, this is ideal, right?
Yes.
Okay. But also working on other things. You were just mentioning when you went to the Snowy World. I want you guys to see this because it's so cool what's happening on his screen. I think if you turn it, I don't think they get to see as much. Look very good. But you went to a Snowy World too. It's just it's clever in a way that defies description. And you know what else I love is that when you click something while it's loading, it does things while it's loading. So we don't get that little wheel that you get in some games where it says loading. There's actually something going on and the kids love. So what are the lessons that you were going through there again?
The ones here are money, attributes, sound discrimination, categories, telling time, describe, negation, sight words. opposites and daily activities.
Okay, so those are a little bit, as you mentioned, harder skills, but still for kids probably just in early acquisition language. But I'm thinking some of those are more like second grade level, the things that you're describing there. So that is, there's quite a progression.
Yeah, some of the actual, I guess, targets are, past basic, but I think the way they're presented makes it easy enough for any child, especially if they've started with this format and kind of understand how to, I do things.
Okay, now if somebody is part of a school or somebody wants their school to get this, what's the best way for a school to go about getting this? Should they contact you or should they just go through the App Store and do the educational discount?
Well, different schools have different, I guess, avenues of getting apps into their system. Mm-hmm. So we have this available for Android and iOS. I think most schools are probably on iOS, iPads, or iPhones. But I think the best way is to just go through Apple's volume purchasing program. Okay. If you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to us and just send us an email. We're more than happy to help.
Okay, and what's next that you guys are working on? What's the next set of lessons that are going to get unleashed upon us?
The next set of lessons will be in this little mountain area. I actually don't know the names of all of them.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
But we're filling out these last 2 sections, and then we'll have about 50 total lessons.
Amazing.
But I think in terms of what we're trying to focus on right now is getting that back end and that web portal up for teachers and parents to be able to see that progress.
Really exciting. This is remarkable work, and I hope that the reinforcement for you continues to grow, because I do know, I've seen therapists and see that as a teacher, I know that spark that you see when a kid gets it it's the payoff for us, right? But now you're doing it on such a bigger level. I'm glad that you're starting to get some of the feedback and hearing what a difference you're making so that it'll continue to be reinforcing for you, because this is an amazing piece of work.
Yeah, if you guys have stories out there, if you guys are current Camp Discovery users, feel free to email us and then let us know.
On both sides, right? You want to know what's working and what they wish would be differently.
For improvement of the app, we love to hear what's not working, because we don't want that to happen. We know how frustrating it is when you're trying to work with a kid, and we've had a couple of those emails where a kid loves it so much, it's great to hear, but on the other side, it was, they're having an error. Yeah. And so we want to be able to fix those for you.
I think the comment that we got from somebody that somebody else had sent you was that whatever noise was being made when they got it wrong, they kind of loved.
Yes.
They found that reinforcing, that they were sort of enjoying, which would be something that my child would do, that he would love the noise, whatever it is that you're doing. And so they were wanting to be able to change that if a child found that reinforcing. Has that happened yet, or is that in the works?
No, that is in the works. And so being able to turn off when a child gets the correct answer, that feedback, is we want to be able to give users the option to turn that on and off, and then to be able to change the time a child has to respond correctly.
Oh, nice.
Because right now it's about, I want to say 3 to 5 seconds, and we want to give them the option to make it longer or shorter depending on what they need.
And I can tell you as a parent, it's crazy what a child can learn given the opportunity, multiple opportunities. And, I was saying before that Dr. Tarbox always talks about the 2 of the best tools that we have to teach are opportunity and immediate feedback. This gives both to your child, and the things that your child can learn from this, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So check it out, Camp Discovery. And again, we're going to be giving 5 codes for the pro version away. Make sure that you sign up for the free newsletter and write to me at s.penrod@autism-live.com. Christopher, thank you so much for being with us and for all of your work on this. I come back whenever you've got something new. I want to hear more about it.
Go ahead.
All right. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be back to answer some of the questions you guys have been sending in on the live feature, so stick with us.
When Maddie was diagnosed, I'll be honest, I was very ignorant on what autism was. I knew that autism was basically something that hit boys at the age of 2 to 3. They shut down, and sometimes you think of the typical Rain Man movie. And with Maddie, she was doing all the same signs and symptoms of a typical child with autism spectrum disorder.
Stand up.
She didn't even acknowledge us coming into the room. She had barely any eye contact. she didn't interact with her sisters. She didn't really do anything. She just basically lined up her toys and that was about it. We have a team of 7 volunteers, or 8 now. We have 8 volunteers, including my husband and I. And I'm the team leader, and so I do all the curriculum and get everything ready each week.
Jana was downstairs until 11 o'clock at night working on curriculum, going through 2 different textbooks. And then we, as a group, meet on Monday nights, and we would go through what the curriculum was from Jana. And a lot of times we would go, well, how exactly do you do that? How do you sit her at the table and do this trial base? What skills has done for us, it's taken that away from Jana trying to figure out the curriculum for one. She can go down, or even our laptop, and she can sit down and through all these questions, it comes up with the different programs.
At least for me, it was a relief off my shoulders. I was worried that I might be missing something, missing a curriculum that maybe she needs to know, where skills, they have every possible thing your child needs to know from 0 to 7. They have a program for that.
What noise is this?
Good job! Every program that we did with her, I knew it was specific for what she needed to learn. Because before skills, it was a lot of, okay, well, is that really age appropriate for a 2-year-old? You know, because it's not generalized. It's anywhere from 0 to 7. This is what your child needs to know in most manuals you'll find. But for this, okay, yep, she should be learning this. And no, she's not 4 yet. She doesn't need to know that yet.
We are so fortunate that Jana was able to attend a conference put on by CARD that opened the door for skills, and that there's no looking back for us.
We started using the program in November, and it seemed like by January something just clicked, and she has completely kind of came out of her fog that she was in for quite a while.
I have never read a documented case on any child that has not benefited anything from applied behavior analysis, and now with this new skills and being, you know, like the E version of ABA, I can't imagine it doing anything harmful to their child. It's nothing but exponential growth for us.
To see her now, it just blows us away. I mean, we call her our little miracle child because in 7 months' time, she's just blossomed into this normal, functioning child, and suddenly, we joke about it all the time, like suddenly we have twins.
If you're even thinking about doing it, do it. Because the absolute worst thing you could do is do nothing at all. And even if you use this program and it's just a single mom or a single dad working in the evenings with their child, this program is going to benefit them. It's going to show you where they are, it's going to show you where they need to go, and it's going to show you what skills and how to get there. It is an online book on how to help recover your child.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I want to take a question that somebody wrote in just now because my heart just is beating harder for you. Okay, they wrote, I have a situation I'm embarrassed about. I'd like to hear a parent's point of view. My son gets therapy after school and into early evening. I'm having a hard time managing dinner time and some other family stuff as a result. Our house is tiny. The table is taken by the therapy materials. So my daughter ends up eating alone with me around, standing at a piece of furniture in the living room, and my son ends up eating on his own in a hurry after the therapist leaves. Sometimes I'm more around for him than others. It's crunch time to get homework done and dinner. It is a stressful time. We have to squeeze bathing in too some nights. My son's mealtime skills are deteriorating and I'm feeling like a crappy parent, as though this issue isn't just rubbing salt in all the other wounds of how this isn't what we bargained for when we dreamed of having a family. Short of shortening his therapy hours, I don't know what to do. I just want one tiny piece of normal per day. And then there's a sad face. And oh, gosh, you took me back to a moment in time, which I don't consider my finest moment in time, but when my son was getting therapy, as I was just saying with Christopher, my house we were in a teeny tiny little 2-bedroom condo. And the second bedroom was so small, it was more like a storage area. There wasn't even, I don't know why it was considered a bedroom, there wasn't even enough room in it to put a twin-size bed. So my son was actually having to, he had a kid's bed in our bedroom, which was bigger, and it wasn't big enough for him to do therapy in that second bedroom, is what I'm trying to say. So our living room / dining room, which was all one long room, became the therapy room. So there were times when they needed to do therapy when I had to go into the second tiny room, and that was where I would watch on the video monitor, and there was just enough room for a desk and a computer monitor, and I would get some work done while I was listening and doing other stuff. But I couldn't do laundry because our little stand-up laundry thing was out in the hallway by the long room, which was the living room, dining room, and connected to the kitchen. I couldn't do dishes. I couldn't get any of the housework done, and I couldn't even start dinner without interrupting therapy. Now, there were times that they would ask me to come out to work on things with my son, and I would, but that still wasn't me getting the laundry done, wasn't me getting the dishes done, wasn't. And our dining room became therapy central. We got rid of our dining room table, sold it in a garage sale, sold the chairs to go with it, because we had no place to store it, and we got a therapy table. It was a therapy table that had legs that you could raise up, so if we were going to have people over for dinner, we would raise the legs up so that it would be a regular size dining room table, but otherwise it was a therapy table that had the little kid's chair that sat there at it, and we had the a thing there that had therapy items in it that went against, there was like a counter for the kitchen where normally people would have put stools there and people could have sat there at this counter. And that entire counter was therapy central. There was shelves underneath of it that we had installed that held therapy stuff and all of his toys for therapy. And then on the top was all of the books that went along with therapy, and right? So if you walked into my house, you basically walked into a therapy room. But when dinner time came, it was a nightmare because usually I had a therapist sitting at the table, and my husband and I had to sit either on the floor, or we had one extra therapy chair, so one of us sat at the therapy chair and another person sat on the floor or sat on the arm of the chair that was in the living room, and it was a cluster what. Okay, so I can relate to, except that I didn't have a second child, and bless your heart, I don't know what I would have done trying to do homework with the second child and dealing with all of that. I will tell you that eventually somebody said to me, you need to make a certain amount of peace with this and figure out how all the prioritize and say, here's what's most important to me, and then work the pieces around that and come to acceptance with it. And I just about wanted to throw myself at them and go, accept it. Blah, blah. I mean, I just hated that advice. But I took a quiet moment when I was rested and thought, okay, how could I change this equation around so that it would be better? And one of the things that I did was ultimately said, this is a therapy room. I need to stop thinking that this is a dining room and trying to make this work functionally for both. And so then we started leaving the therapy room as it was. I got a coffee table, and we sat crisscross applesauce at that coffee table out in the living room and ate dinner for a while. I will tell you that I wish I could have gone back and done it slightly different. That one of the things that was proposed to me that I kind of poo-pooed, and I wish now that I'd done it differently because my son's table skills were starting to deteriorate too. What was offered to us by our ABA provider was that perhaps things like homework, I eventually did take them up on this, but homework and eating at the table became part of the therapy. Now, before you reject that out of hand, like I did, let me bring up a couple of things to you. That the skills that we work on in therapy are life skills. They're the things that make our whole lives work. I'm always saying to people, if grocery shopping is difficult, that then has to become part of the therapy, that you take the therapist with you to do the grocery shopping. Look, I don't know if I could have taught my child how to hold onto a cart and walk alongside me in the store. I really don't think I was up to it, but the therapists were able to do it in 2 sessions. And my child still will do that sometimes without thinking about it. And then he'll go, oh, can I walk over there and look at that? And I say, yes. But he'll put his hand on the cart as we're walking through because was used to being reinforced for that. So, you know, eating is a life skill, and it's part of being social, and teaching a child how to appropriately use their utensils and have that social moment and have discussion at the table is something that can be covered under therapy. You have to prioritize, and I don't know what skills they're working on with your son, but if this is affecting your life right now and you're feeling like a crappy parent, maybe you just need to spend a couple of weeks on this. Maybe it doesn't have to be the lesson forever, but let's think about making that part of the therapy time, and also homework. I, for the longest time, didn't have that be a part of my son's program, and we worked on the homework until I started having a problem and he wouldn't do the homework. And then the therapist said, why won't you let us help you to work on the homework? And then they did, and my life got better, and he got better at doing the homework. Believe me, if I had somebody who would come in and work on the homework with him now, oh my goodness, that would be like the most exciting thing. And it's perfectly acceptable for you to set up the table so that he comes home from school and your daughter and your son sit at the table together, and the therapist sits with them and facilitates your son doing homework. So now the homework is done. Homework is done, Dunny Dunnerson, as we say it, right? And the therapy, you know, kicks into other lessons until it's time to put the meal on the table. And you can, you know, you choose where the table is and talk to the therapy team about it and say, you know, because part of your life is your family life. And if you say, dinner is deteriorating, I need some help, you know, make that part of the thing, so that part of your lesson, so that and have it be the family. They could be prompting your daughter about, this is how we are at the dinner table with your son, prompting him to have conversation, so that when the therapist then is, and maybe the therapist is there for part of the meal, and then the therapist moves over to another chair to finish up their paperwork, right? You can tell them, and they can get that all together so that they can do that. So when dinner is over, you have some quality family time that is scheduled, that's whatever you choose for it to be, and then it's bath time, which will change the equation. But, you know, talk to your team and sit down and say to yourself, what are my priorities right now? And I know that that might be trading some time for something else, but believe me, being able to eat and be social at the table and getting homework done, those are two really important things. If he's at the point where he's got homework, that, you know, it is an important thing because it's a life skill. Even if this homework right now isn't the important thing, in a couple of years, having that regimen of doing homework and doing it peaceably will be important. So we're setting up a pattern. Try that. Think about that. Think about what else could you possibly change. I also got a crock pot so that dinner was already, you know, I could make dinner while he was at school, put it in the crock pot, and when the therapist left, it was ready to serve up. It was a lifesaver. It was a big lifesaver. And I've said before on the show that my family, we also did a thing that when the last therapist the day left, we put on some music, and for 5 minutes we danced as a family. And I wish we still did that. I keep saying we're going to do that. We are going to do that eventually. That is the loveliest memory of when we had therapy. We danced as a family and shook the day off. It was such an exciting thing. So find your regimen, but don't be embarrassed and don't feel like a crappy parent. You are juggling so much more than any of your friends are. I get it. I totally get it. You're doing a great job, and the fact that you raised your hand and said, excuse me, this kind of sucks and I don't know what to do about it, you're doing an awesome job, and I know that you are. But write us back and let us know if any of that makes sense or if that just sounds more ridiculousness. All right, we are going to go now to the A Word because I've gone way over. A Word, very wonderful ongoing documentary being made by the Center for Autism following a little boy, Jack Raley, diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. We like to drop in on his family and see how his early intensive behavioral intervention is going. And you'll see that sometimes the parents are like, it's kind of miserable having people in our house all the time, but it's paying off. So take a look. This is the A Word.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack.
Jack Riley.
He got a a big warm blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast.
No. I don't understand. What are you talking about?
Jack Raley has been scripting a lot. He's repeating lines from movies, practicing speaking, which is great, but his use of language is not appropriate because no one understands what he's saying. Everyone has been working on redirecting his language to say things that are more appropriate and conversational.
Hey ladies! No, try again. Say, hey ladies, let's play.
Jack, can you say I'm excited?
I'm excited to play.
There you go.
Okay. I will play Jessica's house. Okay, that's what I got. Where is it? There you go. It is.
Jessica has been working on WH questions such as where.
I will play new iPod. Okay, go get it. Go get the iPod. Where's?
Who.
Who's there?
What.
What is it? There we go. It's iced coffee.
Why.
Why are wearing glasses?
I'm pretending I need them so I can see you better.
That's why you.
These words accelerate his learning by giving him language to ask for info.
Oh, I just want to be silly. Am I silly?
You need WH questions for conversational skills, comprehension, perspective taking, and problem solving.
Hi. Hi.
I'm Suzanne. What's your name?
Gray.
What color are your eyes?
Blue.
How about mine? What color are my eyes?
Are brown.
Yeah.
What a wonderful episode of the A Word. You can be watching this entire series on its very own YouTube channel, and we encourage you to do that. What a great segment about WH questions and how important that they are. I remember when Jem was little, and I met a woman who said her granddaughter was 4 years old, and I said, oh, my son is about to turn 4, and she said, 4, it's that terrible age when everything is why. I go to bed now. Why? Eat your dinner. Why? And she was just going on and on. She said, you know what I'm talking about. Just why? And then, I burst into tears because my son had never asked why. It just didn't happen. He hadn't asked it. And I started asking questions about, when is that going to happen? And they had started working on it with Card to prompt it to get him to spontaneously ask why or what or any of those questions or where. He just wasn't doing it. And sometimes for our kids on the spectrum, they don't until we teach it, until we prompt it, and we can, and those lessons are available in skills. And you saw Jessica prompting it. A lot of times, I was just mentioning that, they would pull me out of the room to come and work on something, because a lot of times you need 3 people when doing that. So one of the ways in which you teach it is so the therapist says, to the mom, come out and say, what color are my eyes to the child? And so the child, looks at the eyes, and if they already have colors, they look at the eyes and say what the colors are. And then the therapist prompts the child, don't you want to ask mom? Ask her what color your eyes are. But having that third person to prompt to ask the question is sometimes really the ticket. So there are ways to teach those WH, and I still recall we were taking him up to his preschool that he went to, and I think he had just turned 4, and we were in the car, and there was a climb to go up a mountain to get to the preschool. And I'm driving the car, and my husband was sitting next to me, and normally wasn't both of us going, so I don't know why both of us were there, but my son was in his car seat in the back, and we had watched those dinosaur movies that, I can't think what the name, they're cartoon, there's like a series, Land Before Time, that's what it is, thank you, Kelby. Land Before Time, and there was one with a baby dinosaur in it. So we're just at the base of the mountain, and every time we go up that road, I always think about this moment, because from the back seat in his very, little boy cute voice, my son said, where are all the dinosaurs? And it was the first time that we'd gotten a question, and I said, well, the dinosaurs died. And he said, what? And so now we got another WH question, and I said, the dinosaurs are something that's called extinct. And he said, what's extinct? And so now I got another question, and So we were trying to explain extinct and how they all died, and that it got really cold, and that all the dinosaur died, and that there's nothing left but dinosaur bones now. And he said, even the baby? And because it was the little baby dinosaur, and I said yes, and he said, but Mama, get him a blanket. So we went through like 4 WH questions and a problem solving, because when you're cold you need a blanket. It was amazing. I almost wrecked the car. And you know, we got up to the top of the hill, we got him out the door to preschool, and my husband and I were hugging each other and, you know, calling people and saying, you'll never guess the conversation that we just had. I just want you to know that there's hope, but we need to get our kids to the point, and it doesn't matter whether your child is 3, 4, 38, there are ways that we can teach the WH questions, but it requires a great deal of prompting and practice and opportunity. And you're just seeing little snippets where Jessica is teaching it to him, but that was a series of weeks of prompting everything. But you see how Jack Riley's language has begun to explode, and how he is starting to find it reinforcing when he says something and people understand it. So she says something about, why are you doing this, and why are you wearing glasses? And she says, because I want to do it. And he says, that's silly, right? So he's starting to put he's starting a conversation. That's a volley back and forth. He said something that took the conversation to a new direction. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. It's a miracle. It's the miracle of language, and we're seeing it flourish in a child where it wasn't happening before. I encourage you to check out Skills. Those lessons are all there in skillsforautism.com. Okay, we are going to take a break now in just a second. Oh, no, did somebody just write something in? We've had a couple of questions that have come in, and some of them I want to save for tomorrow with Dr. Granpeche. We have one about poop smearing that I want to save, but don't worry, there are some solutions for that. Also one about Medicaid in West Virginia that I'm saving for tomorrow, and the bipolar disorder one we're saving for tomorrow as well. Okay. And Mike has asked me if I have joined Kiwanis yet. You know, I have not. I was in the high school version and the college version is Circle K. I guess I need to join Kiwanis. Mike says that I will enjoy the Kiwanis magazine this month. They have 3 amazing stories about children who have autism, and I hear from you a lot, Mike, about all the amazing things the Kiwanis is doing. I guess it was the Kiwanis Club that I belonged to in high school and the Circle K in college. Apparently I need to join as an adult. That's certainly something I need to look into. All right, so we are going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by a really wonderful autism dad, Chris Raley, who has formed something called CR9 Designs. He's a jewelry maker, but it's not just your average jewelry. It's some of the funnest autism jewelry I've ever seen. They make great gifts, and we're going to be talking with him via Skype about why he made the decision to start making autism jewelry. But I want you guys to take a look at it so that you can see this is some great gift stuff going on here, and a way to support a dad who's bringing autism awareness to the forefront. So stick with us. We're going to be right back after these messages.
Raley has high-functioning autism, and I'd say I noticed somewhere between 9 months and a year. Looking back now, I can tell you everything. I mean, there was no pointing, there was no shared experiences, speech was not coming, the interactive play was not coming, those things weren't happening. You know, you go to the pediatrician, they tell you, well, sometimes boys are slow or things might take a while to come along, but it still wasn't happening. And right when he hit the 2-year-old room in preschool is when the wheels fell off the wagon. That's when we got some intervention. That's when we figured out, how are we going to address this problem. The first thing I did was I got a mentor, because there's no book on what to do with your autistic child. I mean, there's many books, but each path is individual. So I got a mentor, a really nice woman named Marlene. She has a daughter with Asperger's, and she told me, go to a psychiatrist so you can have your child fully diagnosed and a rock solid diagnosis that can't really be attacked. Call CARD and do whatever they tell you to do. That was probably the thing she talked about the most. Get in touch with CARD. She actually put me in touch with Evelyn from CARD, and calling CARD was like amazing, because I really felt like things were finally going to be okay. We were going to get the help we needed.
We tried a number of different things before we could get into CARD, and you could really see the difference in the data keeping, really addressing what his issues were, whereas the other places we had been, it seemed pointless to me.
We've talked about this, and I feel like we met a lot of really nice, well-intentioned people.
Right.
And then when we got to CARD, we met a lot of really nice people who could help us because they had the experience. It was ABA, which I think is the only way to go with your child if you're trying to overcome autism. And if you go to CARD, the people are so qualified, and there's so much of a database on how to approach this. It's just like they come right in, and we started off with, let's have Riley sit down for 2 seconds, because he couldn't even get that. And we worked on baby steps until now he's in 1st grade and he's working at grade level. So it just starts with baby steps, and it keeps working on, because they have a way to approach every single problem, every single tantrum, every single thing you're going to come up with. They have a way to approach it and help you get through it.
Yeah, I'm always amazed, like at our clinic, we'll be having a specific problem, and how good they are, all of them, the therapist and your team leader, at coming up with a solution, something to try, and it almost always works. Whatever the particular behavior you're trying to deal with, they're really good at them. They know the answers.
He likes a lot of stuff I think regular 7-year-olds like. He likes to swim.
He loves to swim.
He's a fish. Likes to ride a scooter, loves Toy Story, loves playing on the iPad.
Loves Justin Bieber.
Thought you all baby mine.
Good job, buddy.
High five.
High five.
High five.
Yeah.
CARD's been good about encouraging us to do things that maybe wouldn't occur to us, like him learning to ride a bike was really them saying, hey, it's time, let's do this, and helping us do that, and so he can ride a bike. He's still working on the brakes a little bit, but he can pedal a bike. We can go to Balboa Park, and he'll ride happy as a clam along the bike path.
If you think something's wrong, it's not about you. Don't bury your head in the sand. Go get help, because the help is out there to make your life and your child's life just so much better. And if you're lucky enough to get in with CARD, I can't even tell you what a difference it's made in our lives from 4 years ago. Just the quality of life we have, the quality of life Riley has, the progress he's made from being a child who wanted to stay in his room and play Toy Story and line up his Toy Story dolls all day, to a 1st grader who's working at grade level. It couldn't have happened without CARD intervention, without ABA, and without all the wonderful people we met there.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm so excited because joining us via Skype right now, we have an awesome autism dad. Chris Raley is joining us. Chris, are you there?
Yes, I am.
So thrilled to have you on the show today. I saw some of the jewelry that you make. You are a jewelry maker, and your company is CR9 Designs. I saw some of the jewelry, and I was so excited about it. I just thought it was unique and different and wonderful that I wanted to know who was making this great jewelry. And when I looked and saw your story, I said, oh, we have got to have this dad on the show. So let's start by, I'd love for you to tell our audience a little bit about why are you making autism jewelry?
Well, first off, the inspiration for it is my son, Matthew. But the reason I'm making it is about 2 years ago, I was looking at in a Costco Connection magazine, and there was an artist who was working with polymer clay, and she was making jewelry and selling it. And I thought about it for a little bit. My mom is a very talented polymer clay artist, and I know a little bit about the medium. And so I was thinking, well, maybe I could make something that I would like, because if you look at all the autism stuff that's out there, not a lot for men. But I started doing research on polymer clay autism awareness jewelry, and I found that there was really nobody doing it. And so, you know, there was a vacuum, and I tried to jump in and fill it. So I started experimenting with polymer clay, trying to perfect what I see as a proper puzzle piece, because some of the ones that you see for sale, in my opinion, they don't look great. They don't even look like puzzle pieces. So I spent a lot of time perfecting little handmade cutters to actually hand cut the puzzle pieces out. And just lots of experimentation, lots of money spent trying to get it right. But I started putting pictures up on Instagram, and I had a really nice reception from the people that I already knew through social media, and they were very encouraging. And so it's just kind of grown from there. I opened up my Etsy shop. I set up a booth at an event, did pretty well. Etsy shop picked up. So it's just been a kind of a wild ride, because if you told me 2 years ago that I would be making jewelry and would be pretty successful with it, I would have said you've got the wrong person, because that's the last thing I ever thought I would be doing.
Well, this autism takes us on some varied journeys, and this is part of your journey, I'm sure, because you are very talented and it's very eye-catching. We have some pictures that Kelby is gonna, I believe we've got some pictures that Kelby's gonna be putting up and showing. So we're taking a look, Chris, right now at a blue piece, and it looks like the puzzle piece is floating. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Those, I know which piece you're talking about. That's one of kind of my signature piece. I've got another one right here in my hand. Those are handmade puzzle pieces set in crystal clear resin. So I'll hold this one up. You can see this one has some kind of fall colors in it. And so that's what I do, is I hand make the puzzle pieces myself. And I have a mold, and I pour them in resin. And those have been really popular. And what's nice about those is I can make them really in any color. I've had people order them in their favorite colors, school colors, team colors, and that's just the result of experiments. And that's what I do. I kind of approach this mechanically. How can I incorporate the puzzle piece? How many different ways can I do it? And that's one that I really liked.
Well, you mentioned that you have team ones that you can do as well. I thought that was a really cool thing for so many of us, that if we go to a walk and everybody in the team is participating, you can customize them for the name of the team, because people have some pretty cool team names out there, so that it says your team name on the pendant. What a great gift to give to everybody who's doing the walk. What a very exciting thing. And you also mentioned that you've got some stuff for men. And there was one in particular that I thought was really cool, that somebody on my list might be getting this Christmas. I don't want to say too much in case people are watching. But you said that you've got one there that you can show that's in process, what I'm talking about. Because for those of you who have men in your life, you've got the Captain America one there?
Yeah, actually, this is one that's in work right now.
Okay.
It still needs to be rounded. I need to put the puzzle piece on it and resin. But this is my Captain America pendant, and this was actually a request by someone on Instagram. Someone asked me if I could make. Pardon me, my cats are fighting.
That's okay.
If I could make a Captain America pendant. I've made Superman pendants. I've made a Batman pendant. And so a lot of the things I make are in response to what people want. And I think that's what sets me apart from a lot of jewelry makers. I also have another one here in progress. If you can see it, it says Autism Teacher. And it looks like a sheet of paper, like a lined sheet of paper. And that has a puzzle piece in the middle of it. And, you know, it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but there have been a few people who have bought these and they absolutely love them. So I try to make a wide range of pieces.
Well, and I've seen the finished one on your Etsy shop of that autism teacher one, and it's beautiful because it looks like it's encased in glass, and it's just so beautifully done. And I believe we've got some more pictures that I want to show, both of the jewelry and of your family. So take a look. You see how, guys, how it looks like it's encased in glass. It's just beautiful. And that autism teacher one ends up looking the same way when it's finished. It's absolutely beautiful. And I love that they're so unique. And so you're telling us, Chris, that we can say which colors we'd like to go in there for the puzzle pieces?
Absolutely. I have quite a few custom order requests on Etsy, and we're all familiar, excuse me, with the kind of the main 4 colors in the autism ribbon: blue, red, light blue, and yellow. That's kind of the traditional 4 colors when you see a ribbon on someone's car. But I also make them in different colors. I've got a peacock pearl, purple pearl, magenta pearl, black, white, red, green, you name it. If you want an all black, and this is getting tangled up, but one of my puzzle piece necklaces on a cord, kind of simple, but it's all black. And I don't know of anybody else out there who's making autism jewelry that customized.
Yeah,
if
you think about it, it makes sense, because we always say this is not a one-size-fits-all community, so why should the jewelry be all the same color? I love it. I want to take, because you mentioned to us before we came on air that you've had an addition to your family recently, because your son is on the spectrum, and I think we have a picture of the whole family. There we have the whole family. So I think that must be your son that you're holding.
Yes.
And then who are the 2 ladies standing next to you?
That's my wife Angelica and my daughter Karen, and Argus, our son's service dog.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about Argus and how Argus came to be in your life. Oh, there's Argus with your son. My goodness, they're both beautiful.
Thank you. That's one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
About a year ago, there was a little boy in Merced, up north of here, with autism who'd wandered off. And thank God they found him, but he was in a body of water. And my son Matthew doesn't understand danger. So, you know, when you see a story like that, you think, gosh, that could be my son. The little boy even looked like Matthew. And at the same time, a friend of mine on Instagram posed with a picture of a service dog puppy that she was visiting in Southern California. And I put those 2 together and made the decision that I wanted to get a dog for Matthew. And so started doing the research, asked a few friends. They told me about a trainer that they highly recommended in Southern California. His name is Bob Taylor. And so I contacted Bob, and we started the fundraising process online through social media and family and friends. And we were very fortunate. We received lots of donations from people who I have no idea who they are, how they found us, but they were generous. And then we received a very large donation from a family friend, one of my father's friends, and who helped finish paying for Argus. And come to find out, let me backtrack a little bit. The picture that I saw of my friend holding a little puppy, service dog in training, that was Argus. So we wound up getting the dog that kind of inspired me to do go through this whole process. We wound up getting that dog himself. And he came home to us in early September. And it's been a big change for us here at home, adapting to having a large animal with us. But the biggest change has been when we go out with Matthew. We spent like a year and a half where we couldn't even, my wife and I, we couldn't go shopping together. We couldn't go to Costco or Target together. One would go and one would stay home. And now with Argus, he provides a distraction for Matthew, a companion for Matthew, and he has a handy little handle on his vest. And when we still have our struggles, we still have our moments where he'll kind of lock up. But once we start moving, Matthew holds on to Argus, and we can walk around the store and actually shop in relative peace. At home, he's been a lot more calm. The meltdowns have really dropped at home. I'm able to take Matthew to school in the morning, get him out of the car, get him all the way to the classroom without a struggle, whereas before, almost every day it was a struggle. He would stop in his tracks in the parking lot, and I'd wind up carrying him, kicking and screaming, to the classroom. And that, if you have a child with autism, you know one little thing can ruin the entire day. And so we were having bad day after bad day. And but now with Argus, we haven't had any problems. We're able to get out of the car and go into school, and it's great. And so it was a lot of work to get him, but completely worth it.
Well, you are clearly a wonderful, I said, an awesome autism dad. Clearly that's the case. We love your story. I can't leave without also saying that you are retired U.S. Air Force. Is that correct?
Not retired. I served for 8 years, from 1993 to 2001. And got out in January of 2001. So not retired. I would, if I'd stayed in, I'd be retired now. But
well, ex-U.S. Air Force. That's what I should have said.
Yes.
Well, we thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you. And another little side note: I'm also a credentialed special ed teacher, if you believe that.
I do.
I got my bachelor's degree in 2 teaching credentials. Finished up about 2 years ago. But Matthew is more important than another income. So my wife is a teacher, and she works her, pardon my language, she works her butt off every day.
Yeah.
And she's great at what she does. And my role is to get Matthew up in the morning, get him from point A to point B, point C and D, and then, bring him home in the evening. And so I'm, I do have other things that I've done in my background, but Matthew is my job. And he's, not taking away from my daughter. She's a wonderful child. But Matthew is the reason I'm here.
There you go.
My job on this earth is to be his dad and to do everything I can for him.
Well, you're an inspiration to all of us, and we love your jewelry.
Thank you.
I want to encourage everybody who is watching to support you and your family. These make wonderful Christmas gifts. So they can go to www.etsy.com/shop, SHOP, and then another slash, and the name of your shop is CR9 Designs, all one word. So you can go there, but I also can tell you, if you put CR9 Designs in, and if you put autism in, I Googled it once I found it, and you can find Chris's Facebook page and be following along. Check out those Captain America and Superman and Batman ones. They're great pieces of jewelry for the men in our lives, but there are great gifts for teachers, for aides, all the things that, all the people on your Christmas list.
Yes, I was going to say, it's not just for men. There are some really pretty and
there's earrings and bracelets.
Earrings, necklaces, beaded necklaces. Yeah, and I'm going to expand. I want to get into wire wrapping and metal clay and things like that, but that's
wonderful.
That's down the road a little bit.
Okay. It sounds exciting. Well, we think you're remarkable. I loved your jewelry. So again, etsy.com/shop/CR9 Designs. We hope that you guys have a wonderful holiday season and that lots of people buy your jewelry.
Thank you, and I appreciate you taking the time with me to talk about this. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you being available.
All right.
We'll hope to hear more from you in the future. All right. Bye-bye for now. Thank you so much to Chris. What an amazing dad. What an amazing story, and so inspirational. Check out the jewelry, though, you guys. It's absolutely beautiful. All right, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back for Happy Compliant Child 101. How do we make that happen? It's amazing. Stick with us.
Hello, fellow activists. Last week, we talked about step number 1, accept and embrace this challenge. Now we're moving on to step number 2, educate yourself.
After my son Wyatt was diagnosed, I put up a sign over my home office that said Autism Central. I went to school in my home office every night after my husband and Wyatt had gone to bed because I was determined to learn everything there was about autism. That's because knowledge is power. Visit all the autism websites you can, read all the books you can, learn about all the organizations that are out there that offer free guides to help you. Some of them even offer mentors to help guide you. Find out about local support services. Find out about what educational services your child is entitled to. Get to every autism conference and seminar you can. I'll never forget the first autism conference that I went to. The first speaker was a beautiful, brilliant woman named Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet. She spoke about a therapy called Applied Behavioral Analysis, or ABA. She told about how it could improve the life of children with autism, and in some cases, recover them. Now, despite the fact that Wyatt had been diagnosed for over a year, nobody had told me about this therapy. I remember calling my husband on the cell phone and saying, "Honey, I met the woman who is going to help improve Wyatt's life." And I'm happy to say that 8 years later, that's true. Are you feeling a little overwhelmed by all the information that's out there? Well, you're not alone. But try different approaches for your child. Trust your gut. Just 40 short years ago, mothers were told if their child had autism that they would have to be institutionalized, and in some cases they were actually blamed for their child's autism for failing to bond with the child. That was called refrigerator mother syndrome. Well, thank goodness times have changed. So until next time, learn everything you can about autism and keep the faith.
Welcome back. It's time for us to talk about how do we get a happy, compliant child. I call this Happy Compliant Child 101 because I want it to be simple. I want a happy, compliant child. I don't know about you, but I want that with certain asterisks. I want a safe, compliant child, right? So why do we want a safe, compliant child? Because I'll be honest with you, when we have a compliant child that is a happy, compliant child, it's the best of times. And when we don't have one, it's the worst of times. This is what I always talk about. It's the comedy and tragedy of compliance. Because if your child is happy and they're happy to be compliant, there is nothing better in the world, right? But if your child isn't compliant or they don't want to be compliant, which is what we get through a lot of compliance training, that a child is taught that you are compliant or you're going to get punished, what's going to happen the next time that the child is left alone? Well, chances are they're not going to be compliant with the thing that you wanted them to be. And that's part of being safe, right? I want my child to exhibit certain behaviors and to do them all the time, even if I'm not there, right? That's a happy, compliant child. So I always say it's the best of times, it's the worst of times. Which one do you want to choose? I want the happy face, right? A long time ago, when I got my first very own personal dog, I got my first lesson in compliance. And I took my dog to and by the way, when our kids are not like dogs, but people who train dogs work almost exclusively in behavior, since dogs don't have a huge amount of expressive language, they just can bark, right? So they work a lot behaviorally. And I remember I went to a dog training class with my dog, and there was a guy who was standing next to me with his dog. And we were supposed to put our dogs about 5 feet away from us and then ask our dogs to come to us. Well, I asked my dog to come to me, and she came right away. Well, the guy standing next to me, he calls his dog, and the dog doesn't come. The dog's looking over there, he's looking over there, he doesn't come. So now the guy starts to cuss at his dog and starts to, call him stupid and other things and saying, "Get over here," and using that tone of voice. And finally, he yelled enough at the dog that the dog started to come. And as the dog started to come, his hand went up because he was going to spank the dog. And the teacher jumped in and said, "Wait a second, what are you doing?" What do you want most? You wanted the dog to come to you, right? And you want to build trust with this dog. But if you reward the dog for doing the thing that you wanted, I understand that he didn't come the first time. And I understand that he didn't come the second, third, fourth, fifth, or 20th time. But he's finally coming now. Now is the teaching moment. And you're going to swat him now that he did the thing that you wanted? What do you think the likelihood is that your dog's ever going to come to you again? And that made a huge impression on me. I don't know that it made a huge impression on the guy who was standing next to me. I don't know that he got it. But I remember thinking, you know, I never thought about it that way. Are we rewarding the thing that we want, right? Are we doing that? Because that's one of the most important things that we can do. So whenever I think about compliance, I think about that moment in time and the fact that we want to make sure that they get a reward. This is our kids I'm talking about now, a reward for doing the thing that we want them to do. So the watchword around here is to catch them doing something good. What? And this is true for everything and everyone. If you're working with somebody who at work and they're just being miserable to you and you just don't know how to get things back on track, put up a sign in your office, catch them doing something good. And when you do, reward them for it. What we're doing is setting up a circumstance in which they're going to get praise for having done something, right? So if that person delivers something off the copier to your desk and you go, thank you so much, that is so kind of you. I don't know what it is, but when you are kind to someone and you praise someone for something, even if it's something small, something shifts in you and something shifts in them. Same thing with our kids. If you want your child to be picking up their toys after they're done, then we want to make sure that if they pick up and move one thing into the bucket, you go, good job, that's such a great thing that you do, and shower them with reward for having done that thing. Now, so often when I'm talking to parents, they'll say, yeah, except they're not doing anything good right now. I haven't seen a single thing. I've been watching, trying to find something to catch them doing something good. When you're in that boat, there is a very simple thing that you can do, and that's a sneaky thing. Ask them to do something that they already wanted to do. Whenever I remember this, it's absolutely life-changing for me. Right now, my son's favorite thing is to be on his phone and looking something up. And if I am in a moment with him where he's not listening to me, not being helpful, not being useful, not being compliant, if I say to him, hey, can you do me a favor? I need you to look something up for me on my phone. Suddenly, it is as though I have given him the biggest gift in the world. He's like, I can do that for you, because he wanted an excuse to be on his phone anyway. And he'll look it up and he'll go, look, and I got this for you, Mom. And he'll go overboard because he knows he's going to get praise for it, which he does. Now, when he was little, it was much different, the things that I would ask him to do. I would say, you know, if there were a pile of Legos, I would say to him, hey, can you throw a Lego 4 feet and get it to land into that bucket? Because he loved, you know, to throw the Legos around and to throw them into, he didn't want to put toys away, but he would throw them into the bucket. And so he would throw it into the bucket and I would go, yay! Or you can even say, if your child likes to dump the bucket of Legos, ask them, hey, can you dump all the Legos out on the floor? Can you do that? And go, yay, you did it. I asked you to do it and you did it. And then you can start the process of how many Legos can you pick up in your hand at one time and put back into the bucket? You make it a game, right? And you praise them and go, you're doing such a great job. Wonderful. And you've got the happy, compliant child. It's really important that we reinforce. Make sure that if they do something and it's what you ask them to do, that you give that reinforcement. Now remember that reinforcement isn't just what we find reinforcing, it's what your child finds reinforcing. We want praise to be reinforcing, but in the beginning, maybe it's not. So we have to pair reinforcement with something, that praise, with something that's already reinforcing. So maybe your child likes tickles. And so you get them to put some of the Legos back into the bucket and you go, good job, and you're praising them, but you're pairing it with tickles and you're tickling, so that eventually your child doesn't need to be tickled anymore. The praise will work on its own. Ooh, we're cooking with gas when we do that, right? So important when we're working on compliance training, just like the guy with his dog, that we remember what's important here. The story I always like to tell is being at lunch with my son and a friend of his, and the mom was sitting there, and this is a neurotypical child, and the mom was sitting there saying, I don't know what's wrong with my 5-year-old who's about to start kindergarten, but he all of a sudden has turned into a teenager, and he rolls his eyes all the time, and I get attitude from him, and he doesn't listen to me. All of a sudden, compliance has gone out the window. And I said to her, are you remembering to praise him? And she said, of course I am. And so, and I was like, okay, taking it at face value, right? And so 30 seconds later, she said something to him. He asked her a question. She said something to him, and he rolled his eyes and got up and walked away from her. And she said, stop right there. And he stopped right where he was. And she said, turn around and come back here. And he turned around and he came back. And she lifted her finger and was about to give him a lecture about rolling his eyes. Because in the moment, she was thinking that's the most important thing. But she had just said to me, I don't have any compliance from this child. And I, as a bad friend, leapt in with both feet and said, what a great job you just did. And both he and she stopped and looked at me like, have you lost your mind completely? I said, that was amazing. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. And they're both like, what is wrong with you? Because he was thinking I was about to get a lecture, and she was thinking I was about to give a lecture. But the truth is, she said stop, and he stopped on a dime. She said, turn around and come back here. And she didn't even say it nicely, and he came back to her. That was the ultimate in compliance right there. He was coming back and he knew he was going to get a lecture. He didn't think he was going to get praised. He was being compliant, and she was forgetting to praise that. And both of them were smiling, and he was like, I did what Mom asked me to do. I did do a good job, didn't I? And she said, you know, she's right. You're a good boy. You did a really good job. Thank you for stopping when I asked you to. Thank you for coming back when I asked you to. What a good boy you are. And then he was like, thanks, Mom, and they had a little hug, and then she said, but you know, it'd be nice if you didn't roll your eyes every time I say everything. And he was like, okay, Mom, I won't. And she said, why don't you go play now? And he went off to play, and she said, good job, right? And then the rest of the day, she had a happy, compliant child. We have to remember what's important. Just like the guy whose dog was coming back after he yelled at him, we have to remember praise when they do what we ask them to do. Have to absolutely remember to do that, because remember that compliance equals everything when we have a kid on the autism spectrum. If you have compliance, there's nothing you can't teach. There's nothing you can't do. There's nowhere you can't be. It's amazing. It's the keys to the kingdom. And remember, when you do compliance in this way, you make the child thoughtfully compliant. You make them compliant to circumstances and to people. They won't just follow someone blindly. They will follow you and do what you ask them to do, but they won't ask what they won't do what the stranger asks them to do. It is the most wonderful gift that you can give yourself, and it's something that has to be worked on constantly. I will get into a place with my child where I'm not getting the compliance, and then I ask myself, when did I last praise? When did I last make it worth his while? And then I'll ask him to do something that I know that he already wants to do, and we're back on track. Happy, compliant children. Get one. It's a cool thing. Okay, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with some more of what you guys have written into us, so stick with us.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ackerman. Welcome back to Talk of Facts. We hear questions all the time, and we want to give you the answers that help make your journey in autism easier and more navigatable. Less than a year ago, we interviewed the top 100 doctors in the United States working with children on the spectrum, and we asked them a question in the cloak of secrecy. What are the top 3 mistakes parents living with autism do? Number 1, and the one that makes me laugh the most, is when they use their physician as a marriage and family therapist. 1, the doctors told me it made them uncomfortable, and 2, they were highly unqualified to provide that type of advice. So the night before your physician appointment with your MAPS doctor, get together with your spouse, significant other, and write out the list of the targets and the agenda that you want to cover at the physician's appointment. Get in sync. then you'll be definitely spending less time and not making that doctor so uncomfortable. Second thing that was the most common mistakes parents living with autism make is they want to go too fast. And really, you want to pace yourself in the autism journey. We all know that we want to get our kid to be the best they can be and hopefully recover from autism. And what a lot of the doctors have told me is that you want to really pace yourself. One, to let the labs be your guide. And two, work with your physician on the prioritization and the delivery of the different medical interventions. The third most common mistake they felt families made was giving up too soon. And what you need to know is they're invested. They're looking at wanting to get the best from your child. But I tell you that when I got that and consolidated the 100 interviews with these physicians, most of the doctors who brought that up had tears in their eyes. They want you to know that they're in the fight with you, and they want you to know that hope is really real. It may take hard work and it may take time, but to not give up and to stay in the game. So let TACA help you. We'll have some more TACA facts for you in the future, real questions and real answers for the autism journey.
Welcome back. I wanted to address some of the things that you guys have written in. Somebody wanted to know, hi Shannon, thank you for answering the previous question from the parent that talked about home time routine during therapy. We started immediately integrating homework and meal preparation within the ABA therapy time. It works very well. It's important to communicate to the therapist what your needs as a parent and a family are too. And I couldn't agree more. I think, you know, sometimes when we start therapy, we are in such a mode where, the word that I can use to describe me, I was desperate. I was just desperate. And when I saw that they knew what they were doing, there were times when I would say, well, then I just abdicate to you guys. But we had really good quality ABA therapy, and they would frequently ask, but what's most important to you? And remind us that we were a part of that team. And I would forget it on a regular basis. And if they hadn't reminded me, I'm sure that I wouldn't have ever remembered it, right? But it's important. It's really, really important that you state what the priorities are, because there's probably a million things that your child can be working on, but it's only what's meaningful to you, right? And different people are going to pick different things. I love that there's a dad that I know that he says, you know, someday I want to be able to sit with my child and have him enjoy a good piece of music with me and us have a discussion about that. That's what's important to me. And, you know, I never really thought about that before, because that isn't necessarily something that is the top priority on my list. I think it's a cool thing, but I don't know that it's a top priority on my list. But there were other things that were priorities on my list, you know what I mean? That wouldn't have been on his. And it's important that you convey that to the person who's designing your program. You know, I've spoken before about how the fact that I came to the table a little bit quicker than my husband did when our son was diagnosed with autism. And I think that's pretty typical of parents, that one gets there before, and often it's the mom. Not always. I have a friend that it was the exact opposite. Her husband got there first and she kind of trailed along behind, but usually one parent gets there first. And I remember the day that it sank in on my husband, that my husband got it, and had a moment. And it wasn't good timing at all. We had been on airplanes and missed a connection to an airplane to a wedding that we were supposed to go to. We're stuck, in a place where there were no hotel rooms, with a child with diarrhea, no rental cars, and that was the moment that it all became real to my husband. And I was a little impatient with him, and I said, wait, now? Now is the moment that it all becomes real to you? But he was having this emotion, and he had just been to see a play a couple of days before that was To Kill a Mockingbird, and our son is named Jem after the little boy in To Kill a Mockingbird. And my husband was watching the play, and there was a young actor who was playing the character of Jem, and both my husband and I have enjoyed theater our whole lives. It's what I used to teach in college. It's what my master's degree is in. Theater for so long was my life before autism became my life. And my husband is still an actor and a director. And he said, I just had this moment where I realized I don't know whether our son is ever going to have the joy of being in a play. And it was devastating to him in that moment. And I realized that wouldn't be everybody's moment, but everybody has something like that it's meaningful, that it's like, will we ever be able to do that? And we made it a part of our thing for our team that our son would eventually learn the skills so that he could be in a play. He's been in 2 plays now and loves it, by the way. Doesn't want to be an actor, which I love. Yay! He doesn't want to be an actor, but he's happy to be in a play at school. So make those wishes. As you know, we might think that they're small or bizarre and say, I want to be able to sit and have a meal at a table. I don't think there's anything small or bizarre about that. That's huge. That's life. You know, that's the big stuff. That is the good stuff. So don't be afraid to put that on your priority list. Don't be afraid to talk about that with your team, to tell them that and anything else that you have going on that you think, this is what I'd really like to achieve. That informs them about which direction to go. I remember them asking, they'll ask all kinds of small things. They would say, okay, we're going to teach the designations. Do you want him to say woman or lady? And I was like, what? Well, do you want him, and we're going to teach both eventually, but which do you prefer that we teach first, that he refer to a woman as a woman or a lady? And I was like, my gosh, I never really thought about that before. I chose lady. But he says woman now, so I don't know. In any case, somebody else wants to know, does CR9 Designs make keychains? I'm sure that they will. So just put in a request, because he's very interested in making things that you guys would like. I'm sure that he will. And Mike wants to know, why do you think helper dogs help children who have autism? And you know, I'm going to refer ever so slightly to our good friend Temple Grandin, who has frequently, she's written a couple of books about behavior having to do with dogs and what that has to do with autism. I can't think off the top of my head what the one autism dog book is about, but I remember reading, and I don't know whether it's in the foreword or in the first chapter, talking about that Temple says that she believes that all dogs have autism. That they have a sensory world, that they react to things in a certain way that reminds her of autism. And I find that really interesting. I think that there is something about when people and things are pure, when their motives are pure, when their behavior is pure. Dogs don't try to fool you. They're not sarcastic. They wear their emotions on their sleeve. You know what I mean? If the dog's tail is wagging, the dog is happy. If the dog's teeth are bared, the dog is not happy. Their emotions are very easy to read, and they're not being duplicitous. People try to keep what's happening on the inside and not allow it to shine through. Obviously, a lot of people, you see what's happening on their face, but it's harder to read than it is on a dog. It's just clearer. And people's behavior is hard to read. I'm always trying to explain to my son, you know, somebody will do something and he'll go, well, that means this. And I'll say, no, not necessarily, because you know, people don't always behave in the way that you think that they would if they want a certain thing. You have to kind of read between the lines, and that's a much harder skill to do. So I think it's a relief to be with animals and to be with that level of honesty. There's something about them that's calm and majestic and truthful, and they also don't love the extended eye contact thing either. There's something about that that's supercharged for dogs. If you try to make eye contact with a dog for a long period of time, a dog will look away because it gets uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So I think that animals in general are something that's deeply interesting to our individuals who are on the autism spectrum, and they can form relationships with those animals that's based on honesty. I think the animal appreciates that, and I think our kiddos appreciate it too. It's a wonderful thing. It's an absolutely wonderful thing. So I don't know. but I would encourage you, Mike, to read. I'll figure out which book it is of Temple Grandin's, but it might be a good book for you to read. I have to pause for a second to remind you, first of all, that our toy of the hour was, again, Camp Discovery. And as I mentioned before, I've got 5 different pro versions of Camp Discovery to be giving away to people who you have to do 2 things. You have to make sure that you're signed up for our free email newsletter. You can do that on our homepage, Autism-Live, up in the corner on the whiteboard. It says join our email list. Click that. Fill out that information, and then you'll get the newsletter. You'll get the newsletter, and you'll get to find out what's going to be on the show for the week so that you know before anybody else. But also you need to email me at s.penrod@autism-live.com. That's S as in Shannon, .penrod, P-E-N-R-O-D, at autism-live.com. That's my email address. Tell me that you want the Camp Discovery, who you want it for, and why you want it. Make sure that you include, I don't even need your home address. I just need to have your email for this one because I need to be able to email it to you. We have 5 of those to give away. Spread the word. If you know a kid that you think would just love to have this app, make sure that you write into us and let us know, or have them write into us, or have somebody who loves them write into us. We love to give away these things to you, and we encourage everybody to take a look-see at Camp Discovery to see what all the fuss is about. Now tomorrow, oh my goodness, tomorrow in the morning we have Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is going to be with us. She's going to be answering your questions during Ask Dr. Doreen, and we also in the second hour have Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, our very special guest. We have somebody who's going to be with us showing us an app called ReaderBee. If you've got kids that are just starting to read, or they're pre-readers, or you want to up their reading skills, ReaderBee, it has been tearing up the toy community, winning all kinds of awards. So we're so happy to showcase that for you tomorrow. ReaderBee, you're going to love it. And then on Thursday, we've got Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, Dr. Adele Nadowski, and we're going to be showing you another app that's so cool, Brain Parade. So a big, exciting week where we're just showing you some really good, very effective things to be able to use. We're out of time, but until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.